evening, everyone, and welcome to the Spiritual Injection. We are glad to be here with you again this week for another episode of our very unique educational platform where we give you an opportunity and ourselves the opportunity to reset, refocus on the things that will actually eventually lead to us manifesting these lofty goals and visions that we have. I'll stick to goals actually. These lofty goals and aspirations that we have for our lives. We are the Spiritual Injection. You can find us on all major social media platforms at Spiritual Injection. We ask of you only three simple things for this, for the exposure to the great content that we bring you on a weekly basis. And that simply is that you go to our YouTube page, like, subscribe, and share. Like, subscribe, and share on our YouTube page and help us to develop and build the platform. The more you help us to build, the more we can evolve and grow into providing you with even more and more high quality content. So this evening, if you haven't invited a guest, shame on you. You do need to help to build a mastermind for yourself outside of this platform. One of the things our host is very focused on, very passionate about, is about us surrounding ourselves with people who will challenge us to develop. And people can only challenge you to develop as far as they are educated around to the capacity in which they can engage with you on a high level. So we invite you to bring people onto the platform, regardless of what the theme is. The principles that we will share will be, as always, transferable to all endeavors of life. So our special guest today is a return guest. Her name is Boniswa Brock. She is I'll read her bio, but from meeting our sister initially, there was an almost instant affinity in terms of not only her character, but the principles, the things she stands for, and just her general demeanor and how she presents. So Boniswa Brock, M.Ed, is an esteemed educator, administrator, community leader, and the founder of Every Child is a Genius. Born and raised in Detroit, Michigan, Boniswa is a proud descendant of 5 generations of educators. Her rich family lineage stretches back to her great-great-grandfather, William Jefferson White, a founder of Morehouse College in Atlanta. Georgia Brock has held Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia. Boniswa Brock has held teaching and administrative positions in several private and public institutions. She served the Detroit Public Schools, Detroit Hispanic Development Corporation, Latino Family Services. Or some of these you'll have to expand upon, Boniswa, so we can understand
Yes,
the
ma'am.
gravitas of what this is. But I'll read them out. Aisha Shul Webb, W.E.B. Du Bois Academy, I know him. Timbuktu Academy of Science and Technology, Muhammad University of Islam, and numerous homeschool families and community centres. Boniswa Brock is currently an adjunct professor, education consultant for instructional coaching, homeschool assistant, and also an entrepreneur. Throughout her career, Boniswa consistently addressed the need for additional support for children and families in the BIPOC communities. Is that Black? Can you expand on that acronym for us?
Yes, that's BIPOC, meaning Black Indigenous people of color.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
After 40 years of envisioning such an institution, she was moved to create Every Child is a Genius, a forthcoming school that cultivates the creative genius of pre-kindergarten children in the Metro Detroit area. Boniswa is a mother of 2 geniuses and grandmother of 5. She is a mother, daughter, sister, friend, and more. And what's interesting about reading just the last sentence about you cultivating the creative genius in pre-kindergarten children, I'm not sure about um, In fact, I'll leave it to you start. Wait, I'll leave it to you start.
You got questions. I
Let
appreciate
me
that.
kind of go straight
Yes,
in.
yeah.
So, before we go further into our program, it's not too late for you to invite someone onto the platform to share this experience with us. Put your cameras on if you can, so you can fully engage and extract use all your senses to extract what is in store for us this evening. And I'll bring on to you our host. Welcome, Abdul Hakim.
Warm welcome to you too. You nearly just took my job.
I know.
Okay. I can go on holiday now next week and you can just proceed.
No. You're needed right here. It's fine.
So wonderful introduction. Thank you for
Thank you.
that wonderful introduction. And as I generally say on most weeks, this is one of my most favorite parts of the week because it gives us an opportunity to see how bright the future is for our people and for the world as a whole, where we get an opportunity to interface directly with some of the greatest minds, not just in the community, our community, but the world community, the professional world community. And it is a great honor and privilege to be in the company of some of our greatest people who have graced planet Earth. So for me, I'm going to use my couple of minutes before we bring on our special guest to encourage as many of you in the listening audience to send a text message to your sons, your daughters, your friends, your family, anybody who you know who has children. I think it's important for you to try and get them on the call for the next hour starting now, because we need to understand that the condition that we find ourselves and our children really is self-inflicted. And there are options for us now. And if we refuse to accept the options, then we're going to give birth to free children and then hand them over to be enslaved, not just their body, but their minds. And for their minds to be not even the surface of their brain power to be scratched all through the educational process. And the first, I think it's Sister Boniswa, the first 7 years of the education of a child, they say, is the most important time of formation.
Yes. Yeah.
Because if you look at when a child is just in a natural environment, just allowing itself or being allowed to grow and develop, the child learns to crawl, the child learns to sit up, child learns to walk, child learns to feed itself. And then it all starts to go downhill when we hand them over to a third party in the name of preschool, in the name of nursery. That's when it starts to go downhill. So could you imagine how much further it could go upward if we were handing the child over to somebody who loved them and somebody who has the educational capacity and ability to continue that natural process of growth and development into mastery? So by their 7, my God, if they're in the hands of our special guest, she's going to give you a flavor of what we have the potential to turn our children into little geniuses. There was an article here, Sister Boniswa, in the UK, where about 60 of our young people just went and raided a supermarket. Everybody just ran in at the same time and just grabbed what they could grab. Now, for our young people, and all those young people have parents, for our children to be going on a rampage for sweets and food is in the name of fun, and allowing the police to video camera them or film faces and to run the risk of having a criminal conviction for following silly friends. It shows the need why we need to have more people like you on this platform, and for us, those of us who are parents, to be in a position where we know the formative years of our children are some of the most important years of their life. So it gives me pleasure to invite back or to receive back one of our greatest sisters. I said one of the greatest minds I've been blessed to interface with. And then when I met her daughter, that's what sealed it for me. I'm like, it wasn't just mama. you know, they say mama may have, papa may have, God bless the child that has its own. And my God, Sister Boniswa has a daughter who has her own. So without any further, please, those of you in the listening audience, please take your devices off of mute and receive a sister who just doesn't bring herself forward as an educationalist. She actually has proven she has done that by reproducing herself, so that the community can benefit. Please, let's receive Sister Boniswa X with a round of applause. Thank you, everybody, and warm welcome to the spiritual injection, Sister Boniswa.
Well, you did such a wonderful.
Welcome.
Thank you. You did such a wonderful introduction. It's like, wow, okay, what's left? So I appreciate all the words that were said. And in the name of Allah, the beneficent, the merciful, I bear witness there is no God but Allah, that Muhammad is his messenger. I want to share my screen so we can get started. I've been given the charge of only 20 minutes. And since I'm a talkative person, I need to get started. So I'm going to start with myself and how I got here. As I said, I come from a long line of educators, and I'm very blessed to have the pictures of my family. The couple that's in the upper left-hand corner is William and Josephine White. These are my great-grandparents, who are the founder of Morehouse College, as well as they actually had one of the most distributed newspapers called the Georgia Baptist in the late 1800s to the early 1900s. And then I have my great-grandparents, Mary Blocker, these people here, and Isaiah Blocker, who established high schools for Black children in Jacksonville, Florida, as well as my grandmother, great-grandmother, was instrumental in fighting for teacher rights, especially for Black women as teachers. The next layer is my grandma, who has a picture of me holding me in our backyard, and her husband, George DeLangacy Brock. And the picture that you see is his graduation picture from Harvard University. He graduated from Harvard in 1931. Then, of course, my parents, and my mother was a special education teacher. And my father was actually a social worker that worked in Detroit Public Schools, as well as a community activist. And then there's me as the fifth generation person. In my hand is my grandfather's book called Health Through Projects. And when I first started talking about and developing my curriculum, which I knew was going to be a highly kinesthetic STEAM curriculum, my sister had purchased these books. We purchased them from around the world. Actually, I think my book is from Germany. And so at first I was like, what's the book's about 100 years old? What does that have to do with me? I'm not going to read this book. It's just a book to put on the shelf. So Spirit said, read the book. And I was like, whatever, I'm not going to read this book. And then I read it. And then I understood the value of generational inheritance. My grandfather was actually doing or had done what it is that I was wanting to do. And what I was doing was really just an extension of what he was doing. He actually did a whole curriculum on project-based learning and how kinesthetic learning and kinesiology was extremely important for our children to be successful. And that's why I came up with the theme, My Turn, My Time, because as a person inheriting this information, when you're young, you don't want to do what your parents and what your family does a lot of times. But then I was pushed into doing what I was born to do. And that's important too. So who are we? Every child is a genius. Let me lower this a little bit. Can you all see the?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, yeah. So our mission, Every Child is a Genius, is to elicit from each child a free-thinking, problem-solving, sovereign mind through the implementation of K to the fourth power pedagogy in a STEAM curricular framework. That's fancy words for we want the children to be able to have a God mind so that they can solve the problems of their time. They have to be able to do that to create the world that needs to come, that's coming, whether they're prepared or not. And it's our responsibility to help them to do that. And our vision is to be the quintessence, the archetype, the North Star for that occurrence, so that every child can be and obtain their innate genius that they have. So our theme is we touch eternity, which means no matter whether you teach a man, you teach an individual, or whether you're teaching a woman, which means you're teaching a nation, everyone's being touched by transforming into who they should be. And our goal is to offer a loving, safe environment for all children to manifest their innate purpose and share in creating the change for the betterment of humanity. So even little people are learning that they have the power to transform whatever's in their life, and they have to do it for the betterment of humanity. So what do? We have three components. We do consulting, college and career readiness, homeschool. We do school districts, community organizations, and we now are almost opening Every Child is a Genius Prep Academy for 2 to 6 year old, as well as we do professional development and the K-4 curriculum. I'll talk a little bit more about the curriculum. This is an example of when we collaborate and partner with different institutions. We collaborated with Aviation and Nation, which is an institution that started when I was the director at MUI. And what happened, we had a parent and a colleague that designed a program that teaches the children about aviation, where we actually take them out to fly airplanes. They learn about water rockets, kites. And right here, I have a levitation orb. And they learn all kinds of things in terms of what it means in science and technology. And these are 2 year olds. And we also give an example of our ancient traditions, and that not only were we flying presently, but in Fall of America on page 226, chapter 58, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says the originator used these planes to put mountains on his planet. So these two pictures that you're looking at, one comes from the temple of Seti I in ancient Kemet or Egypt, and the others come from Colombia. So our children don't know the extended history of all that we have done and why it's important to connect the past with the present. And we do that in our curriculum. And a lot of times people think that children are too young and they're not going to get it. But when they look at these pictures and see, that looks like a helicopter, and that's in a temple that's 3,000 years old. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. We do homeschool collective, and I use terms. I don't say we're working with plants. I say we did botany, we're doing geology, we're doing environmental science, and agricultural engineering. If children can say elephant, they can say environmental. If they can say gorilla, they can say geology. So it's how we use the language to increase their capacity to understand what many adults think are those they're too young to know, but they're really not. It's what you say and how you teach it. This is other pictures. We had families that work. This young man here is with his daughter. We have families a part of the group. We have this amazing scientist. And here on the right-hand side where my arrow is, we had 2 year olds learning the science of weapons. They have to understand how to use the weapons to defend themselves and understand the science of how to use them. So this young lady was 3 and 4 years old, and she was learning archery. So it's not about they can't learn, it's who is it that's teaching them and how they're learning what they learn. We do community organizations, and as you see on the left, we were dissecting cats at 5 years old. People looked at me like, what? You're having cats?
That's where my cat went.
Right. So, yeah, I didn't allow them to do the scalpeling, and actually because it's too sharp, but they actually did the probing, the looking at the different organs. And this is important because as they're developing, they need to understand why what I eat is important. Why being around my mama and daddy who smoke weed all the time, why that's not good for me. So the children are actually holding a lung, and they were saying, oh, it's red, it's fleshy. If you're around secondhand smoke, guess what happens? It becomes black and tar and hard. And I would just say things like, do you want to have a lung that looks like this, or do you want to have a lung that looks like that? And they would say, no. So then I'd say, are you going to vape? No. Are you going to be around your parents when they smoke? No. And one young man said to me one time, he said, but Sister Boniswa, my dad smokes all the time. So what do I do? And he's like 4 or
And
5.
you told the little young boy to punch the dad in the face?
No, I told him you have to talk to your dad. One, I said the best thing to do is to leave the room. And one of the things I learned in substance abuse training, especially in our cultural context, the children are the best source for families to change because most people love their children. And when they understand that they're injuring their children, they try to find another way to stop.
So
I'll just,
I'm gonna cut in a little bit here
yes, sir.
because for someone to send their child to your school, knowing
Mhm.
your position and what you're going to teach said child, then it should be quite straightforward when that child comes home and says, Papa, you know, I love you. You're killing yourself, and Papa, you're killing me too. Can you quit?
Yeah.
Do you ever get or stories like that where parents sometimes can actually feel a little challenged and pull their children actually from the school because you're impinging upon their lifestyle? Is that something
Oh,
you've experienced?
you have no idea. But well, let me say this. Even if parents do get the little stab by their children, I most of them know intuitively that the child is right.
Yeah.
And so because they love their child, and truth is truth. When truth
Mm-hmm.
is spoken to you, there is no age requirement for leadership. And since there isn't, there has been backlash. I've had parents come to me and say, I'm so sick and tired of hearing your name in my house.
Yeah.
Because when I started to teach about nutrition and the junk food and all that stuff, they're like, oh my
Mm.
God, my baby wants to read the label in every grocery store we're going to. And I say, yes. So, I get to push back, but that's okay. I can't recall in my 40 plus years of teaching when somebody actually took their child out. But
That's
I've
good.
had I've had struggles. That's true. I've
Yes.
had parents come and tell me, "Oh, that's not true." And then when you start to show them it is. So I just want to play a quick video of one of my 7-year-old babies. He is an example of what it is to work with children who have a genius mind. And so he's 7 years old, and we did science fair projects, and he decided he wanted to do a science fair project on quantum teleportation. This little young man was very excited because he watches all the sci-fi movies and, disintegrating people. And so he actually did some study and research, and I'll just play him.
And what was your hypothesis for your science project? Teleportation. Mm, okay, and when you were studying and learning about all of this for your science project, what did you learn about? Quantum teleportation and quantum entanglement? Entanglement. Yeah. And who did you learn about? Dr. Ronald Mallett. What did he do? He he was a physicist and he was studying time travel. Okay, so what did you make in your model of your experiment about teleportation? What did you make? A teleportation thing. It would teleport you anywhere. Wow, how would it do it? It's actually pretty simple. Okay. But it has some good security. Truth. Okay, how does it teleport people? You have to stand in a circle. Once it glows yellow, then that means it's about to teleport you. And then it will turn you near life. It will teleport. Nobody teleported. And then, once we get to our destination for the teleportation, then we will be back. And you will turn into physical
Wow, that's amazing. I'm so happy you told me about this. Thank you.
So this is the capacity of what our children can do. He's 7, and he's already talking about quantum teleportation and people turning into pure light and then manifesting back into their physical state. And this is what interests the children. But as teachers, we can only teach what we know. And so
Yeah.
if we don't understand the depth of what our children are learning or want to learn, this is where the gap, and we're about closing that gap. Um, I want to just show a real quick video by a study that was done in the early 2000s about why every child is a genius, to show why this is possible.
We can't hear it.
Oh, you can't hear it? Oh, wow.
Still it comes from? Is it that some people are born with it and others not? Or is it learned? Does it come from experience?
Can you hear it now?
It's sort of choppy.
Why don't we teach some children? See how they
Well, let me do this. I'll pause it.
If you can send it to Sylvina, please, and then
do?
maybe we can replay it towards the end
Okay.
once
Yes,
we can.
sir.
Yeah.
So the key thing is what he talked about. There was a longitudinal study done for children. It's about 1,600 children that they did this study, and NASA they used the same test for their engineers and scientists. They took the same test and tested children 4 to 5 years old, and that the test, 98% of these children scored as geniuses. And they said, well, let's just follow the children for the next 10, 15 years. So that's what they did. When they tested these same children 5 years later, only 30% of them were classified as geniuses. Then they did it again in 5 years, and then it reduced from 30 to 12. Then they did a study of 1 million, as you see, over 1 million adults. And that answer was, I think I have it, 2%. It had inverted to literally 2%. So the question is, what's happening, as you said earlier, Brother Hakeem, what's happening to our children when they're 4 and 5 and they're classified by these NASA tests that they're geniuses? And now, by the time they're 15 in high school, they lose their creativity and their geniusness, if that's a word.
It is now.
Yes, sir. And that was one of the studies that made it so clear to me that we have to do something different. And it's obvious if they're testing at that level, then we know that it's very possible. And this was the demographic was varied. It wasn't by race or gender or anything like that. It was 1,600 children that they had tested. So how do we teach what we teach? So the K4 curriculum has basically 4 tenets. Kinesthetic learning, which means learning by doing. Kinesiology means to learn about the human body, how it works, nutrition. Kinetics, we have a lot of potential energy, and our children need things to engage their mind and their body. Your brain never stops functioning, so it's highly kinetic. So if we're having them sit in desks for 4 or 5 hours a day, or just sit on the floor and play with blocks and watch TV and be on their computer, then they're not using the kinetics that's naturally inborn in their bodies. And of course, knowledge, they have to have knowledge, and knowledge is the understanding and knowing the truth. And so we also have 4 dimensions, which Mother Tynetta talked a lot about. And in physics, we know that we are existing in a 4 dimensional reality. So that's part of why it's K to the 4th power, because we talk about physics a lot in our class, and how everything exists and understands through physics and understanding. So let me take you to my website. And here's my website. And we do have curriculum. You go to shop. And so I've developed a curriculum that's 12 months because I believe in year-round education. And it's available, and it's something that I wanted to share, and I'll give an example of that. So we are a thematic-based curriculum. Every month we have a different theme and focus of what we're learning for that month. So this is an example of December. So we have a theme. We give the definition of each aspect of STEAM. We have large questions of inquiry. And for every letter of STEAM, we have activities. Each of there are links to websites that these books are really for teachers and parents. We have objectives, purpose, reflections, assessments, and there are links attached to it so that you can develop individualized lessons for your students or your child. We have technology, we have engineering, we also have art, and of course we have math, and each of those are different activities. We also have social science, as well as different books that align with the curriculum that the theme that we're talking about. And then of course we have activities. So this activity is asking the families and the children to find the holy days or holidays during the month of December because there's celebrations around the world. Now, some of you are looking at that map and saying, what is wrong with that map, right? Well, this is called a Southern orientation. And for those of us who, let me see if I can bring up the other one. So most of us are used to looking at the map like this, right? So first of all, you're probably looking at the map and saying, well, why does it look so strange? Well, one, this is called the Gay-Peterson map. And what they found was that the map that we look at most often is called the Mercator map. And that map is totally incorrect. And what they've done is they took it out and flattened the earth so that we can have a more accurate representation of what the earth really looks like. And so many of us say, well, what difference does that make? It doesn't matter. Well, it's very important. If you look up here at the top, right here when I'm circling, that's great old England, right? Mm-hmm. So then when you ask yourself, what difference does it make? You can ask yourself, well, how did these people, these little teeny tiny islands, master the entire earth? Wasn't there a saying once that said the sun will never set on the British Empire? When you look at the massiveness of this right here, this is all you are right here, and you conquered all of this. And the question is, how did that happen? And why did it happen? And for those of us in the nation, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, we took them into the jungles of East Asia. Well, if the map is this way, you're going east, you're going this way. So which way is east is this way. For it to only be going to the jungles of East Asia, it had to be this way. Walked them across the sands. In addition to it, he said, we took them down into the caves and hillsides of Europe. Well, you can't go. And then I thought, usually generally you think, well, caves are under the earth, they're down, so therefore it makes sense. But he said caves and hillsides. And so here's Turkey. So they had to go down. Why is it important that we have our own perspective of how we view the earth? Because if you're viewing your world based on somebody else's mind, then whose mind are you operating through?
Right.
Not yours.
Right.
So it's important when we're studying. The history is there, the knowledge is there. It's just, are the adults prepared? Because the children are ready. The children are really ready. I think I did that. Let's see what I have to do. Just two more. Are there any questions?
They're coming. So please
Okay.
finish.
All right. So what we're doing soon, we're going to be doing some workshops this summer related to our educational paradigm. I'm working on a summer symposium. We'll be opening up June 19th. The place is called Akebulan Village. We do have a wish list to take donations. We do have a capital campaign coming up to raise $1 million so we can have a brick and mortar built the way I want it to be. And the long-term goals are to have schools in every continent. And I'll end with this. It's very important that we never stop learning. I mean, I usually don't tell my age, but I'll say I'm in my late 60s. And uh, Prophet Muhammad couldn't read at the time. He was illiterate, and he was told to read in spite of his inability to read, and that knowledge is our duty and responsibility. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad also said that all of our children should have their PhD by the time they're 18 years old, and we figured out how to do that. We must seek knowledge using discernment through the eyes of the Nation of Islam's revelation and our sacred knowledge. And Allah eradicated impossible when he created himself from nothing. The picture on the left was before I was able to bend those spoons with my mind. I was taught and trained to do that. And so I, as a physics teacher and a chemistry teacher, in my head, I was like, oh, well, stainless steel, you can't bend stainless steel. That's like one of the strongest things besides titanium. And then on the other side, I was saying, well, quantum mechanics, everything is really light. Why can't you just do that? And then eventually over time, when we did the exercise, even in the doubt, I still was able to do it. And so I'm saying at the age that I am, you never stop learning and growing, and you never stop being closer to your God consciousness. So I'll end at that. I had some more other things to do, but in the essence of time, I'll end there.
Fantastic, fantastic. Let's take down the slide so we can see you better.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now, a couple of things I wanted to ask you in regards to the wonderful curriculum and your years of experience and the thought of, as you mentioned, having facilities all over the world. Do you currently have a teacher trainer program?
Actually, I do. That's one of the things one of the workshops I want to do this spring. I've been a consultant for several years, and so one of the things that I used to do was go into schools and train teachers on how to move from where they are to what they need to do for their children. I've learned that teachers are a lot of times worse than their children. It's like doctors are their worst patients. They don't listen to the wisdom that they often give. But the time that we're in right now is so critical to do this transformation into understanding that every child is a genius. And genius is the root for genius is genie, which is spirit or soul. And so education means to bring out that. So we're bringing out of them what's divinely given to them. And the other part of that is we have to begin to believe that children are smarter than we think they are, and that they do know what they want, and that they can do things even at 2 and 3. I got so much kickback from teaching the children 5 and 6 years old about giving them cats. Oh, they're going to have nightmares. Oh, they're going to be afraid. I mean, I told the staff, I said, stop giving the children your fears. It's going to stink. It's going to do. I said, I'm not. Just stop talking to me. I'm going to do it anyway. So we have to forge through and do what we need to do for our children. So yes, I do teacher training. Absolutely.
And I was thinking if we could plan a master class in the very near future for parents, because the teacher training, if as parents we're the child's first teacher, then the first teacher that needs training is the parent. So if we can have a teacher training session with parents in the form of a master class, can we invite you to take such a class so you can help to train parents in how to best prepare themselves? For instance, if I had in mind, if I just had a newborn or a young child and I had in mind a desire for my child to start at your school, what would be the best way to prepare a child for a school like yours where you don't have to spend most of the time unlearning or causing the child to unlearn what they know before you can start to teach them? Because I'm sure much of the time that you spend with, new children who are newly enrolled in your facility is to break up some of the old mindset and the old way of thinking and the old way of doing things, which takes up time. What would be the best way for us as parents to be taught, or for our child to be ready to learn, as opposed to, unlearned what they have falsely been taught be reversed?
Well, I'd first say the biggest challenge is what the parent believes a child is capable of doing. If you don't believe your child that's growing in your womb is a genius, and what we're taught in the Nation of Islam is a God, if you don't believe that, then you're going to give them what the enemy has taught us, what you're existing in. We're living in a Western paradigm of a dichotomy of opposites instead of simultaneous duality, where things have to be in balance. So it's difficult. And I'd also recommend there's a couple books. One is The Awakening of the Genius in the African Child by Dr. Amos Wilson. I used to give that as a baby shower gift to every sister I knew. And he does longitudinal studies on the difference between the child development from birth to 2 years old. And he shows that for Black children, they're more highly kinesthetic. They walk much earlier. So the average age for European children to walk is between 12 and 18 months. What he found was for our children, they walked by 12 months. So there's a big difference. We have to know who we are. And then, of course, I highly recommend Minister Louis Farrakhan's, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's series on how to give birth to a God. He talks about the nutrition. He talks about the spirituality. He talks about the mother's mindset, the father's mindset, even at conception. So, yeah, do you believe that your child is a genius? And that's where the paradigm shift changes. Because if you don't believe it, the only way it's going to come is if we teach them that. And the thing is, I have to say too, that even if the parents aren't ready, the children are. And we do have to undo things. But I do believe in even a drop of water in an ocean changes things. And so even if that child doesn't under my care or someone that's been trained by me, they'll still make transformation. And once that spark of truth is in a person's mind, it will haunt you till you find it for yourself.
The answer is yes, you will do.
Yeah, let's think about it. I don't know. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I will. Yes, sir. I'd be happy to. I'd be honored to, because the more we have that understand, it's time. We're in that serious change in time, and so we have to change how we see our children and even ourselves.
Fantastic. So, tell us a bit more about exactly what this goal is that you have. Like, what's the ultimate objective of these goals that you have, and how can we be of help?
Ooh, the ultimate goal is that we all well, the ultimate goal is that we learn to be a sovereign free nation of people that can walk the earth and do what it is we know we need to do, and that we have the intelligence and our children have the intelligence to solve the problems that exist. For instance, in terms of the energy crisis that we're in the midst of, there are so many inventions that children have already come up with to figure out how to eradicate problems, but they're just not given the opportunity or the space by which to do it. So the goal is to create or help create a world that is a peaceful place to exist, and that you have the right to be your sovereign God self. So that's the goal of the paradigm shift, is to get us to understand who we really are and what we can really do. So,
So
how can you help? One, love and support, and allowing me to come on platforms like this and discuss the curriculum, do
mhm.
training, as well as assist in helping me. One of the things I'm an educator, business person, I'm not. So one of my biggest challenges is organizing fund development and like you had even mentioned franchising. I don't know anything about that. So that kind of assistance is really, really needed too.
It's fantastic. So look, by way of setting up, for instance, where you are in your city,
Mhm.
there are so many other cities around you where it would be impossible for somebody to bring their child to your facility unless that child was boarding. And if there's not a boarding facility, then it would be a stretch to drive a child an hour every morning, an hour and a half through rush
Yeah.
hour. So, by way of having these pilots, if you will, or these franchises in different parts, first, obviously, of the US where you are and in the different cities, and then international, as you just referenced in regards to franchising. How many teachers do you think would be the bare minimum that one would need maybe to facilitate 20 children? And what would be the core subjects that those teachers would need to have a grasp of in order to launch a school in any given part of the world?
Well, I'm glad you asked that. When I was
Would
doing
you say
my
that was a great question?
yes, it was a great question. But when I was doing my business plan, I was getting help through a program, and he asked me what were some of my biggest challenges, and I said, "Well, I need physics teachers that can teach physics to 2-year-olds." I said, "The biggest challenge with that
And tell me,
is."
what does that look like, though? Just a brief
Well,
example.
actually, there are more people teaching quantum physics to their children, but it's not in our communities.
Right,
Um,
right.
we have children, in the dominant community that learn how to fly a plane by the time they're 12 and 13.
But isn't that then, Boniswa, isn't that then, a sign for the large majority of us to wake up and mature a bit quicker and start JVing with those who are already doing it, as
Yes,
opposed
yes,
to just being in another corner trying to redo something that someone else, your neighbor's already doing it. So
right.
why not just
Well, why
learn
not
how
teach them
to
how?
coexist with your neighbor so that
Well,
we can both learn it in a neutral environment?
yeah. No, oh, there's a whole lot to that one. But you asked the question about how many teachers. So well, the thing is, each country has different laws around
Mhm.
how many
Sure.
teachers are responsible for how many children. So in Michigan, Detroit, Michigan, it's 1 to 10. We have to have one teacher to 10 children. So
Mhm.
based on our ratio here, if they're 2 years old, you have to have 1 to 10. In other states, it's different. I don't know every country, but for me, ideally, it's 1 to 5. You want to have one teacher to every 5 to 7 children because you want to have that individual engagement on a regular basis. So for our school, we're
Yeah.
going to have at least 4 teachers. Now, the problem with that is the economic burden of
Mm.
paying
Yeah.
high quality teachers
Yeah.
when most childcare, well, here in the United States, I can't even call it school
Yeah.
to be called daycare because school means that there has to be some federal involvement with paying tuition and blah, 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 whatever that is. But you can't call it a school. So daycare implies babysitting. And I don't want any part of that. So I
Mm.
call it an academy since I can't call it a school.
Mm.
So there's a lot of barriers to that because you want people to have livable wages. And if I
Mm.
want to have a scientist, I can't pay him $30,000 a year.
Mm.
So that's one of the challenges because the
Mm.
physics person would need to take care of their family, and
Mm.
that level is just hard to
Yeah, and
do.
that's tough.
Very
That's
tough.
tough.
And
That's
that's why we don't have that in our community because
yeah, it's tough.
we don't have the we don't. One, we don't believe our children can learn it, first of all. And second of all, we don't invest in our own children's education. Because
Yes,
if that was true, we would have MUIs at every mosque. We would have.
yeah,
When I got my master's degree, it was at a Lutheran school, and we went to different like cohorts, and everywhere we went, they followed the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's example: put the church, put the school. And every one of those schools was run by the parishioners of that church. They hired one or two teachers per grade, but in terms of how it was operated by that church community. And we have to get back to that. So I don't get on
yeah.
that.
And I remember I used to have this builder,
Mhm.
Sister Boniswa. I'm going to bring you in as soon as I finish this point, Sister Sylvina. And I remember this Chinese gentleman, he could do everything. He could plaster, he knew electrical work, he knew plumbing, he knew carpentry. So he was a one stop shop.
Mhm.
And he brought his brother on who could only plaster. But that man came to work with him every day. And within a year or two, he was doing plumbing, changing boilers, doing carpentry work, and doing electrical installation. So the way of the Chinese builders in this country is they teach their apprentices all of the trades so that they can leave them as individuals on a job and they can meet whatever the demand is. Where some of us are very happy just being carpenters for life. And if there's some tiling that needs to be done, well, that's the tiler's job. Where the Chinaman, he's picking up a wage and making himself relevant in any area that you need building work. So, by way of the teachers that we need to facilitate the re-education, if you will, or education of our young people, would you, if you were going to have four teachers, would they specialize in four different disciplines? Or is the mindset that each teacher should be a mastery in all of the various disciplines, the various sciences? So if one teacher doesn't is unable to make it, then the others can not cover down, but can cover up or
Mhm.
cover across, to meet the demands regardless of the discipline concerned.
Well, let me first respond by that's how Black people used to teach our children because for 400 years, nobody else had a hammer in their hand but us. And we were doing all the work. So we used to do that. Then we went into integration and, all the other kind of stuff that we ended up doing. And so now we're here. So to answer your question in reference to the teachers, absolutely. There's a certain pedagogy that circles around this interconnectedness and interrelationship of all subjects. And so no matter what it is, if you're teaching art, this is in my curriculum, this is why those five things are together. Yes, they don't have to be a master of physics and they don't have to be a master of chemistry. You're talking to 2-year-olds, but you do have to understand basic laws of all sciences. And if you are a teacher, these are some basic things you should want to do. But unfortunately, in the educational systems where teachers are taught, they're taught how to teach them how to do read and count to 100. So they're not being taught to teach the children. They're not being taught to teach the children to be geniuses.
So they're actually programming as opposed to
Yes,
teaching.
absolutely. Well, you saw the study. So at 5, they were geniuses and solved problems that grown-ups could solve. But by the time they were 15, they were just doing what you told them to do. And that's what we've devolved to. And you cannot have children graduating with their PhD at 18, like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, if we're teaching in the way of who has the educational system now. If he's always said, if they don't treat you right, what makes you think they're going to teach you right?
Right.
And then just like in the book that my grandfather wrote, what I did was I went and I looked at his references. This book was written in 1930. And I said, oh my God, let me just look at how he did the research. Well, they already knew in the turn of the century that the best way for children to learn was through by doing and kinesthetic learning and projects and all that. But instead of them doing that, what did they do? They gave us the memorization, regurgitation. That's a part of it, but that can't be a majority of how children learn. Not today,
But
especially
isn't that affecting though? That system is affecting every race and
every.
every gender. So it's no longer specific to us as Black
No,
people. It
it's not.
really is across the board. Hence the reason why I was saying, isn't
Mm-hmm.
it about time that all those who are ill affected come together in the room, because those who are ill affected represent 85% of the masses of the people. And
Yeah.
that's not race related. That's just across the board, you know. So,
Mhm.
so one of the things I wanted to say to you in regards to why it seems like a cycle that is unpenetratable is because those teachers that you mentioned earlier who are actually doing the miseducating, and most of them know better. But because they had to pay so much money, Sister Boniswa, for the degree that they have, whether it's in education, whether it's in medicine, whether it's in a different field of science, whether it's law, regardless to what it is, their motivation, it seems very clear that I got to get some money. I got to monetize this degree as opposed to, have a sincere, genuine heart to help. I need some money. I got to pay this loan off, and I need to find myself a woman or a man. I need to have a life, and I need some resources. So when doctors start prescribing tablets and say to their patients, oh, you need to take these statins for life, and the person is 40,
Yeah. Yeah.
then you're not dealing with a doctor anymore. You're
Right.
dealing with a drug dealer, you know.
Actually, I'll say this. My sister probably doesn't want me to say it, but she's on. She's a retired anesthesiologist. And I used to say that to her all the time. You're just yeah, but anyway, that's personal. But
The
uh,
anesthesiologists are the best
yeah,
paid in the medical
they are.
profession.
But in that paradigm of thinking, and you don't understand the time, if
Mm,
you're still stuck in, I'm going to do this to earn money, then
yeah,
you don't understand the time that we're living in. You
mm,
can't. You
mm,
you can't. And so, yeah, you do need money. And believe me, I've had teachers I was consulting teachers at a high school in Detroit. The students were failing.
mm,
80% of his students were failing in his class. He told me, Miss Brock, Professor Brock, I've got 2 more years. He said, I really appreciate you coming into my room. I'm not changing. I'm not doing anything different because I got 2 years left and I'm not. And so, yeah, but I said, your children aren't learning. And he looked at me and said, well, you see those papers over there? I'm going to give them the same papers I gave them 20 years ago. So his loans were paid for, sir.
mm.
He didn't care enough.
Yeah,
And so we can,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
about, do you know what time it really is? And we've been given the time. And it's time to act on what we know to be true. The knowledge that we have is the truth. And we
Mm,
have to act upon that. And I mean expeditiously. Because I remember when I was at the mosque in Chicago and the minister was doing the not to stop the killing, oh my God, there was a lecture he did about young people, and he looked right at us. I think I took like 40 students. Sister Tara was in that group that I took to go see him. And he looked at us and said, your children are going to kill you if you don't tell them the truth. And he said, we can't continue to do this. And so that's what I said, hey, they're not going to be killing me.
Somebody else.
And so when Sister asked me about the different organizations and institutions I worked in, Latina Family Services is predominantly a Hispanic institution, and Detroit Hispanic Development Corporation. And so, yes, I raised my children and I've taught other children, other ethnic and racial groups. So I understand that the illness and the incapacity to love yourself is not just for us, but a job was done on us, unlike anywhere else, because Master Fard Muhammad came to us.
He did.
So there's a specific work that has to be done. And so resurrecting us is different from resurrecting others. And so I'm not saying what I teach is not necessary. And I would love to teach in every, because this curriculum is multifaceted. It doesn't depend on any one group of people. So yes, it's very doable. But knowing
and what I mean by that is
Mhm.
sometimes we have the education and scientific skill, and others have the access to the resources. So we need to be able to combine the gifts and the
Absolutely.
talents so that we do what we do.
I believe in the book The Spook Who Sat by the Door.
Yeah. Sylvina.
We have to have people at certain places do certain things. I mean,
need a spook.
You know that movie,
That's
right?
the only spook we believe in, right?
You got to read the book. It's very fascinating. The movie's even is good too. But yeah, we need people in all levels, until we have what's needed on earth to be here. So absolutely.
Yes, ma'am. Sylvina.
We have the Sister Boniswa, we have the video queued if you want to show it still. I'm not sure if you do, but the video that wouldn't sound. The video
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Do you want to play it?
Well, it's in essence of time. I know it's 3:06.
Okay.
I didn't know if that was something. It's totally up to you all. If yes,
Only
and I could explain it if there's any questions about it. But yeah, it's very powerful. My goal was really just to show the chart and to show that there's this exponential decrease in genius in the children as they get older. And therefore the only common factor in all of that is they were in school.
And what we can do, Sylvina, is post it in the chat so all concerned can copy and paste it and listen to it at their own convenience.
And go ahead. I'm
sorry.
There
was a study, no problem. There was a study done over here decades ago, and it focused on the abilities of different ethnic groups. So Black in the UK, Black Caribbean, Black African, white, English, the traveling community, Pakistani and Bangladeshi and Indian, and the study looked at the abilities of children when they entered primary school. And the Black Caribbean were, known to be excelling and, more creative and etc. On entry. So we're talking 4-year-olds. And then this continued until the children reached around 7. And then once they reached around 7, then the trends, like we dipped in terms of our ability. And so I'm not going to name because it's not necessarily about comparing, but it's just to show that we dipped, and then others, other ethnic groups, excelled. So I'm just to show that, I'm just highlighting that to show that this corroborates everything that you're saying, and even as what you explained that the video was going to expand upon. It is known. And it is known, and it's obvious that these children have come from home with that ability, which is what Hakeem was saying earlier. And then there is, I wouldn't say something, there are components in the education system that, reverse development. So I just wanted to.
Well, there's two things I'll say to that. One, there was a recent study done here in the United States there were 4 children They were 4 years old. They were sitting at a round table, and all they had were blocks on the table. They had every type of demographic of teacher. The study was that the teachers were supposed to press the button on the computer when they saw bad behavior of the children. Guess who they picked more than anybody else? It was one white, a Caucasian child, a black male child, a black girl, and a white girl. Who did they pick the most? The black male child. The black male child across the board. Didn't matter the demographics, didn't matter the economic status, didn't matter what the teacher was teaching. What they did was they watched the teacher's eye, who they looked at when they pushed the button. So our children, especially the black male children, has this disdain. And so when we talk about why it's important, we got to raise our children a specific way. We have to. The other thing is because of that, how our children are treated. The second thing I'd say is Black people in general, we have an idea that the school is responsible for teaching our children to love themselves.
Right.
Japanese people don't wait for the school to teach them how to be Japanese.
Right.
They have a Saturday school. They teach them about their culture. It's mandated for these children to do these things. We can't wait on people to expect them to teach our children how to be the greatest that they can be. Why? When the whole system is, I want to control, again, the 85%. Why? There's a I don't know, he's not a sociologist, he's an author. His name is Harari. He works with the World Economic Forum. And on the World Economic Forum website, they have on there, you'll own nothing, but you'll be happy. This man has decided that we're useless eaters. He has a video out. You can look it up on YouTube. His name is Harari. And this was done in 2017. And he's already decided, well, when the robots, he's a transhumanist. So he believes, hey, in about 2030, 2035, we won't need you laborers. He said that. People in Africa, the Southern Hemisphere, we won't need you. We'll be able to feed you. We'll be able to give you an apartment to live in. You'll be able to do all that you want to do, what you're doing right now. But what are we going to do because they're bored? What are we going to do with all these worthless, bored people? This is what this man says. And he says, well, I guess we'll just let them do what they're doing now. Play video games and do drugs.
But don't you think, as long as but think about it though, if we refuse to sophisticate, then we are actually calling a man like that into existence. Because the one thing that God does not tolerate are those who refuse to learn and who refuse to sophisticate after he has raised up someone for them. See, once you have a teacher who is trying to impart to you that which will get you onto a path that will cause you to justify being born, justify existing, and you refuse to justify your existence, then God himself will send someone to sweep you up and take you away. So one of the things I was going to raise to you is, if we are at the point where we have to go beyond, Sister Boniswa, I believe, the level where our children are born just from an accidental act of experimentation with sexual intercourse.
Absolutely.
So as long as our children are an accident from sexual intercourse, we're never going to be able to prepare them and to monitor them when they're at school. So schools become a place where we dump our children off so that we can catch up with the life's time that we have lost by bringing the children in the world. So it's not about, I'm going to actually have a roadmap for this child before the child is even born. And I want a child at this stage in my life, and the finances and resources are in place in order for the child to be on this track for the final product to be thus. We don't do that. So there's no way really of accidentally fashioning a genius. Like the fashioning of a genius is not haphazard and it's not coincidental, and I think where our community is concerned, too many of us are looking for the genius, but are not willing to make the sacrifice to ensure that the genius actually comes into being.
No, I agree, but everybody has a path and a purpose, and I also agree that that's why it takes a village to raise a child. It didn't say it takes a village to raise the children. It said it takes a village to raise a
A
child.
child. Mm.
So it's important, even if you plan, Allah plans. And so, yes, there are things that we should do. We've been taught to do. This isn't a new rodeo for us. I mean, we've been on this planet for 76 trillion years. So we knew then what to do. And now we're relearning what to do through the time in which we're living in. So I agree, to develop that genius. It is a plan, but you have to, yeah. It's a hard road back. I'll say that it's a hard road back, and I agree. Family is important. It's extremely important. Father and mother is very important, but I'm not saying it can't be done.
It can obviously be done,
But
but
it
we
is,
make it more.
but it
We
is, but you got to believe that it's possible. See,
Yeah,
if you're so busy struggling and surviving, and if you don't put your
right.
children first, and the other connection is we don't understand that we're here for eternity. If we understood, that's why I started with my family line. If we don't understand that we are living forever through our children, then that's what gives you eternity, is your children.
Mm.
And
Mm.
so if we don't make that connection, that's just understanding that we're taught we're direct descendants of the originator himself. So if you don't understand that you have actual DNA from Allah, God, then what's stopping you? So it's about knowledge too, as well as just that structure that you talk about.
But
So
that's a heck of a first day in school, right? Being like as an initiation ceremony, you are a
you're a
direct
God.
descendant of the God Himself.
Oh,
Like,
actually, I
where
was
do you
gonna
go
do.
from there?
You go up, you become
You
that.
go
That's
up,
where you go. You go up to
right?
that understanding. Actually, I
Right.
had a timeline, but I didn't ran out of time to do it. But I'll share it with you, explaining that information. But yeah, it's very possible.
Yeah,
Even
I
with
love
the
it.
educational process, it's possible. We just have to have the right people in the right place to do it.
I wanted to ask you,
And we're
Sister
gonna have
Bonnie,
time for you to ask any more questions.
the, the if you had, well, first of all, it's a trivial question, but it's one on my mind. Where did you get the cats
Well,
from?
now we definitely don't have time.
No,
Oh,
you
oh,
need
no,
it.
seriously.
Where did
No,
you get the cats
no,
from?
that's a good question, because some of my students were so mad at me. They said, "Oh my God, you killed the cats! You just did it! You killed them! Oh my God!
Kill the
Where'd
cat.
you got it from the alley?" And then there was this running joke about, getting it from the. I won't go there, but yeah, it was a running joke about the cats and killing them from the street. And I was like, "No, you get them from there's a biological oh, I'll have to send it to you, but you can buy anything online. You can
Oh,
buy
okay.
body parts and stuff. I mean, it's just, yeah, you've heard all about that, right?
Oh,
Legal way
okay.
to do it. So the animals are embalmed. So most
Okay.
of those animals come from shelters where, they're
Yeah.
old, things like that, and then they're embalmed. And so
Okay.
then they ship them to you in a specific fluid. And yeah.
Okay.
Can we
Thank
send
you.
you one, Sylvina?
My, my next question, my next question was, are you noticing in the UK we have a spike in diagnosis of ADHD? Um, And the reason why I'm raising it is not so we can have a whole discussion about it, because I do believe that part of this ADHD phenomenon is the fact that the curriculum is not suited to the children, especially the children that are being born now. Never was, but the ones that are being born now across the board, across all races, are not of that kind that they're going to sit and tolerate. And the parenting is different as well. So the children they haven't got those, that the fear factor then of having to sit and tolerate. So are you experiencing the same across the pond, as you call it?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I'm at one school, a high school, where 40% of the children are labeled with some kind of special needs. 40% of
Wow,
a
big
school
number.
of 600 children, and 40% have some kind of special need.
The
So
ADHD in
it
particular.
it is well, because I'm a consultant, I don't have access to all the
Okay.
data, but based on the behavior that I'm seeing, it
Right.
definitely has everything to do with that. But that's a multifaceted understanding that's a Sister Boniswa saying it was a planned event with the
Mm-hmm.
foods that we eat, with the
Right. Okay.
the social media that our children. I know you've probably seen those videos where 5-year-olds are on their iPads and the battery runs dead, and then they throw the iPad across the room because they're just so addicted to this thing. And there is as a matter of fact, there's a video. Oh, what's oh,
It's
he's on
crazy.
60 Minutes. But anyway, he did this video about how the computer the computer programmers purposely program these apps so that
Yeah.
you increase your dopamine, which is your
Yeah.
Yeah.
pleasure center.
Yeah.
So if the intention is to increase your dopamine to get you to watch it all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and what do you think a baby at 4 years old watching this getting the and the
Yes.
real pleasant voice, oh, you did a great job, even if it's wrong. They tell them stuff like that. So it's like, so what do you expect if we're handing them the very thing that causes them to be addicted? But if we
Mm-hmm.
don't know,
And again, we hand it to them because we want some quiet time.
well, that's
Mm-hmm.
true too. But I think a lot of times some parents are just fitting in with everybody else, because that's what my granddaughters told. So and so's got a phone. So and so has this. So and so has that. Why can't I have it? And then there's this huge thing. And so, yeah,
Because you're a little genius. They don't even want to hear that.
well, I think we have to understand, and the knowledge is the solution. I'm telling you,
Yeah.
and it
But
is.
again, Sister Boniswa, like, why
Yes,
can't I
sir.
have the phone? Well, you
Because you
can
don't,
have it.
my house is not their house. That's what I used to tell my
I tell you,
children all
as you're
the time.
speaking, it came to me, that if there was a kit that someone could design where they could break up the phone into 100 pieces, and you can tell a child if you can put it together, then you
Mhm.
can have it. These are the components. Follow the guide, and if you can put it together and close that case, turn it on, and it sparks up, then that's you. Yeah, but we're not
No,
doing it.
and that's a part of something we do in our school. You give them a computer, put it together.
Put it
Absolutely.
together, and it's
Um,
yours,
yeah,
Sylvina.
no,
Mm-hmm.
actually, a friend of mine is she's doing that with her son. That's what she did. You want a computer? Here are the components. Make it
Build
happen.
one.
Yeah, absolutely. She's doing that. Yes, she is. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. Question.
No, no, no. That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. The conversation's moved on, so that's fine. Thank you. Thank you
No,
so
but
much.
ADHD is a real issue, and there is a doctor. I really love his work, Dr. Amen. His book is called Change Your Brain, Change Your Life. And he talks about how the brain is impacted by these ants, which is like negative thoughts, and how negative thoughts really impact the brain and how we function, including the diet and what we think about. What we think about impacts what we think we can do and what we do. So, yeah, the brain is very powerful. It only does what it's programmed to do. Now, the mind is something else in the consciousness, but yeah,
Mm.
brain is a tool by which to train and move the body. It's like when children do things and you say, well, why did you do that? And they go, I don't know.
Mm.
And I say, well, are you possessed by something? I don't understand how you don't know. I said, did somebody threaten your life? So help me understand. I'm saying this to 3-year-olds. Help me understand how you did that, but you don't know. I said, how do you do things? My brain, I said, did your brain move the arm? Yes. Then you hit that child for a reason. Now let's be honest. Why did you do it? You either were mad, you wanted the toy. Just tell me the truth. And uh, we have to stop letting them get away with things like, I don't know. You
Yeah.
do know, you did it. And it starts really young. It starts really young.
That's great. They say,
I
no,
don't
I
know,
know
it's
what you're
not
saying.
acceptable. You do know.
Yeah, yeah, that is so powerful. So final thought, Silvina, and we're gonna have a final thought now and wind down.
The final thought for me was what we were talking about, what you were discussing earlier with regards to the parents believing that their children can. Because once that belief, my thought was as you were talking, once that belief is there, you will then begin to look for opportunities and gateways in order to expose and extract that from your child if you believe that that capability is within them. So it's the mindset, regardless to all these structures that we're talking about that are stacked against us. If we ourselves do not have that belief, then we're failing ourselves. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And
Yeah.
I would say it's time for us to move from believing to knowing.
Right.
We
Mhm.
have to know. And in the knowing, you also know that it's in divine order, that you
Yes,
will find Allah will bless you with those things in your life.
yeah.
I was a single mom. I was one of those that Dr. Abdul, I called him Dr. Minister Abdul was talking about, you
Mhm.
know. But I knew I saw that in my children, and I prayed a lot. I prayed all the time. And because of that, people were brought into my circle that could help raise my son and helped him to be the man that he is today, that helped raise my daughter. I didn't do that by myself. That's the other thing. You can't do it all by yourself. You
Mhm.
have to have a village around you of like minds and people have the same desires that you do. And you have to stay focused on prayer because Allah will bless you.
Mm,
And
mm,
I was one of those single parents that had an oops baby. I'm sorry, daughter, if you're online, son, but I
Mhm.
mean it's true. And so but I knew that I wanted more for them than what I had. And
very
to
good.
do that means I had to know my a little bit more about myself and the possibility of it even happening. And I believed in that.
Mhm.
And I knew that it was possible because like what you said, Minister Hakeem, is like if I see somebody else doing it, why can't my child do it?
Hmm. Hmm.
And so it was just so how do we make this a way to make
Hmm.
that happen? So
You segued and pretty much answered the last question I wanted to ask you
yeah.
before we were going to closing remarks was in regards to environment,
Mhm.
how powerful environment is and how much of ability environment has to nullify genius because if you have genius in the wrong environment then genius can become fug overnight, right?
I I I I will say yes. We've been taught that environment trumps heredity.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's true. And but I believe that everyone's path is divinely carved out. And one of the things that when you study time, you understand that I was going to talk a little bit about Dr. Ronald Mallet. He was a physicist, a theoretical physicist whose father died when he was real young. And so what he's done is study time travel. And one of the things he discovered was that you can move things into the future, but you can't change the past. So whatever is destined to be is
Love
destined
it.
to be now. what he's saying is, if what he wanted to do is go back and keep his father from dying because he missed his dad, blah, blah, blah. But the point is that even if he changed his father's diet, even if he changed that accident his father had, it still was destined for his father to die within that time frame. So he would have died another way. So you can't change. Things are destined to happen. And physicists are proving that. You can project into the future, you can come back with that information, and you could go possibly into the past, but you can't change the divine order of what things are supposed to be. So,
and the divine order is set based upon the lifestyle we choose. Because at the end of that lifestyle is a consequence or a benefit. So, for instance, if the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, look, I can't prevent you from dying, but I'm like a policeman, you know, trying to slow down your headlong rush into the grave. So he was telling us that you can extend your days.
Yes.
You know, because yes, this divine that you will die at a certain point eating McDonald's every day and smoking garbage and living a riotous life. That life is locked into a very specific conclusion.
Okay. Yes.
But if there's intervention and you live in accordance with divine, you know, your divine nature, then you can extend your time. Because you've changed the trajectory to which and the track that your life was on. So yeah, we definitely believe in divine conclusions, but unfortunately, we are the ones
rush our way to the conclusion.
Yeah, we're the ones who choose those conclusions.
You're right. You are
and
absolutely
we can hasten it or we can defer it.
Yes.
You know, but change has to take place within us. And sometimes we're so accustomed, Sister Boniswa, to a particular way. It's just too much effort, you know, for us to just stop doing what we enjoy so much.
But I mean, Allah is so merciful. I mean, if what's happening around the world right now isn't a wake-up call, I don't know what else is.
Right.
So, we've had this teaching and we've had people come before us for over 100 years now. And so, I mean, just about 100 years. So it's like, at what point? So you're right. But we have to still keep fighting for,
of course, all the way to the end.
All the way to the
Keep swinging.
All the way to the end. We're gonna be victorious whether I'm there or not, but it's gonna be all right.
Right.
We've been promised, so it's okay. It's okay. We're gonna lose a few. We're gonna lose a lot, but it's okay.
It's okay. It's okay. Sister Boniswa, it's been a pleasure, privilege, honor.
Oh, thank you.
You're
I
one of my
appreciate
favorite
you.
people on planet Earth.
Oh, you are one of favorites too. We love you here on the other side of the pond. We need you to come over here and help out too.
Oh, I was just there.
No, I'm talking about doing a master class too. That's something we talk about another time. But
I look forward to such discussions. So, spiritual injection, if you enjoyed our master teacher here, please take your devices off of mute and give her a massive, well-deserved round of applause.
Thank you, sister.
Thank you.
Thank you, sister.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you for your service.
Bless you.
That's it. That's the power.
Yeah, we love you.
Do you enjoy our content? Well, make sure to like, subscribe, and click that notification bell so you won't miss an episode.